Adventure. Headed out to the Alden Village Center. Moved the start time to 7:30 because the sun is coming up right at 7, and we're leaving to where it was kind of still fairly dark. So now those of us who ride in, we're not in complete darkness the whole time getting there. We're going out into the hills once again. Should be interesting. I'll get some good clips for you all.
On this ride, I left Northampton, rode into the woodlands to the Alden Village Center. We picked up the group, headed out Research Forest, got on Fish Creek, Honey Egypt Road, went through the neighborhood, the Hills Parkway into Keenan to Keenan Cutoff, 149 Spring Branch Road. We went all the way out to Tri Lakes. We stopped in Dobbin and then continued. That's why I began filming on Mount Moriah into Dacus, Johnson Road, all the way up Bethel through the forest. I filmed until we got to the turn for Hidden Forest Road where the guys I was riding with went straight, and I continued back into Montgomery and then came back on 2854 Raven Chapel Road to Leah Drive, Fish Creek Boulevard, back into the woodlands. It was warmer than we've been used to the last week or so. It felt like summer had returned, but it was a very nice ride. I think you would love the clips we put together for you. We're on the open road. We're on Mount Mariah Road in northwest Montgomery County, Texas. We're headed towards Dacus, Texas. We've just left the store, and we only have one rider that turned back today, and we're venturing out into the hills. One of my other favorite roads called Johnson Road. It always gives me a slice of adrenaline. Regardless of how crappy I feel, I always like to push on that road. I just like it. You will see it in a little bit. We have not filmed it very frequently, so I'm glad that I started the film later in the ride. That's Paulie Longa, that is Dan Jaworski, and this is Abby. Abby just returned from Ibadan in Lagos, Nigeria. He was visiting his homeland for about 10 days. That's Alejandro Lopez on the right there. I think there are a couple of riders behind me. I believe Mike Bradbury is behind me and Logan, if I remember correctly. This day was unusual in that it was warmer than what we've been accustomed to. We got spoiled. We had a front that came in, dropped the temperatures, 20 Celsius in the morning, and it actually felt cool. And now this is one of the first hot rides. We're going to be in the mid-90s. It's already 85 degrees Fahrenheit, but it feels like 90-something because we have very high humidity. Look at that sky. Is that beautiful or what? Yeah, Abby's asking me if Pete is one of the riders that was with us has turned back. And I said, yeah. He said he was telling me he's turning back because he had a honey-do list.
I told him, I said, when I have those, they're not for Saturday.
So I told him, yeah, I got stuff to do too, but I do it on other days, And then Mike Bradbury was within earshot, and he said, we call him English Mike. He said, I have honey-do lists, but they're not for Saturday, Tuesday, or Thursday. I think those are the days that he does his longest rides. I believe he's retired as well. Yeah, it just comes out of planning. You come on a group ride, nobody really wants to hear that you got something else to do. Just say, nice ride, I got to go back. That's it. I don't need the details. Yeah, especially when we ain't that tight. I don't need to know what you're doing with the rest of your day. Saturday is a long day for me. During the week, I don't always get the opportunity to do very long rides. Sometimes I do, and it's nice. But Saturday is the long day. And I could tell he really wanted to continue, but I'm sure he's got other stuff going on, but that's fine. But I plan my other things for other days. There are other days that I'll commit to do other things, You got to have at least one day out of the week for you. Whether you're playing golf or tennis or running or swimming or whatever. There's 7 days in a week. Don't sell all of them. This section of the road is very lumpy. You see why we come out here? Forage. You got almost like you're going through a forest. They're mostly ag homes. People have large acreage properties. There's not a whole lot of industry. There's like a church on this road and people's homes. Every now and then we see some dogs, but they're usually contained. There's some donkeys and horses out here. So it's quiet. Anytime during the week you come out here, it's just like this. It's a good place to come and get a workout. So most of these were riding between 250, 350 watts, whatever. But then we get to Johnson Road, my favorite road. And then Jaworski was leading, and the pace was nice and high but steady. So we crested that. There was a split in the group after we got through Johnson. So I ended up, I wasn't feeling great on the ride. From the beginning of the ride, I just didn't feel like myself. My heart rate felt like it was elevated. So whatever was affecting me, maybe it was similar to there's another rider who also experienced the same thing, Jerry. He was, we found out later, we see him, you will see him on camera later in the ride. We come across him on the highway. And he was not himself. And you could tell, I looked at his face, it looked pale. But then I found out later from Dan Jaworski that they were in the store, and Jerry's heart rate in the store was still elevated. And that means something was going on. Because mine was coming down and coming back up, going down and coming back up, but not its usual. It's almost like you got a race car and your tack is not going up and down like it usually does. I could tell something was off. So whenever you're in that situation, you gotta, take account of yourself and then adjust your pace accordingly. Don't feel pressured to continue if you're not feeling like yourself. Continue pushing. Doug's brother, Greg Schott, I'm gonna quote him, he says, "You pedal your bike, you choose how fast you go and who you ride with." So remember that. Don't feel pressured. If you're not feeling great, back it off. You can still ride your bike, but you don't have to be going at warp speed. Back it off. Something's wrong. Your body's telling you something. Don't ignore it. So when we get past Johnson Road, I'm going to drop my pace and wait for the second group on the road, so to speak, and ride with them. Because I just, everything felt like it was 10 to 15 beats higher than it should have been. I don't know if it's because of the heat, but I think it was not just the heat. I think my week, I had not slept well the entire week, other than maybe one day. I had stayed up late, just, my brain was overactive working on projects, and you get in a groove and you can't stop. So I ended up working late into the night, and I was wound up and didn't get good rest. So that's, so depending on how your week goes. And then, then when you get on the bike, you got to pay attention to how you feel. So the whole ride, we're through the neighborhood. I even went through the gate and helped somebody. The group took off. I tried to push myself to ride to the group, and I just was not firing, so I backed off. And then a few of the guys waited for me and pulled me back to the group. So even that told me I should have been able to ride up to the group. But you got to listen to yourself. I cannot stress that enough, because it's on you. You the one know when you're riding cross-eyed, or if you're dizzy, or whatever else. So you can't just let your ego force you to keep pushing when you're not feeling like yourself. You don't get any benefit from pushing your body when you feel bad. You're not going to improve. You're going to dig a deeper hole for yourself. So remember that. You're better off just going back to zone 1 or 2 and just spin. So So this is 1486. We've come off of Mount Mariah. Those guys make it, but we don't. I tell them we're stopping, so nobody attempts because this car was too close. We're gonna ride back up to them. A lot of times when the whole group cannot make a turn or make an intersection, you gotta pay attention. You gotta be alert, and it's incumbent on the group that does get through, the part of the group that gets through, to back off and let the group regroup. And that's what these guys are doing. We're not having to kill ourselves. They're gonna soft pedal till we get there. So we're doing about 22, 23. We're gonna ride up, and you can see they're not really going because they know. So don't feel pressure to jump out in front of a car because the group started and it was clear, and then when you got there, things change. It's a public road. Safety first. I watched the professionals in Europe, and personally, it's a little embarrassing, but I've told a lot of riders in the area that I chat with, those guys fall too much. I mean, some of their crashes make no sense. I understand they're pushing and so forth and so on, and that's part of it, but some of the crashes are definitely avoidable. I mean, I'm like, these guys are supposed to be pros, and they're falling like a bunch of chickens. I mean, yeah, you know, bicycle racing is inherently dangerous, but my goodness, man, they seem to have just a high number of crashes. I don't know. Maybe it's those brakes that you can't really tell what they're doing, the so-called disc brakes. They're slamming them too hard. When I'm following riders that have disc brakes, I give myself a little bit of an out because they stop a lot faster than they're expecting it to. Because you get a handful of brakes and you can't really tell how much is grabbing that wheel all the time. I don't know if that's the only reason, but those guys, man, they fall a lot. Sometimes it's hard to watch their races. And, you know, the commentators will say, oh, they'll touch your wheels. They're pros. They shouldn't be touching wheels. And if they touch wheels, they shouldn't just fall. They should be able to get out of that. Those of you who've been on the channel for a long time, I've touched wheels on here on film. You know, that means they're not paying attention out of it. And they get tired. 3 weeks of racing in a tour, you get fatigued. That plays a factor. When you're tired and you're riding over your head, which they have to do, you know, you ride 20-some days riding a bicycle, you know, the terrain that they go through, they get tired. I bet you that's part of it. But man, they sure crash often. I'm sure they have to. I think Mo said one day, he said, you know, those guys are really pushing it because they, you know, they got to get their new contracts or whatever else is going on, you know. You got to get that new job, you know, you get a 1-year contract and you got to, and this is a big race for you, for your sponsor or whatever, and you got to get to the front or whatever. They got their reason to push it, but still, you're not going to really get a new contract if you're on the pavement. They need to be a little more careful. So this is English Mike. He's pulled off. He's going to go to the back. So I never took a pull on this ride because of how I was feeling. Not feeling good at all. I just sat in. And that's what you have to adapt. If you're not feeling great, it's not the ride to take pulls or sprint or do all that kind of other stuff. You got to check yourself. And that's at all levels. If you watch the Grand Tours, there are days when you don't see the top climbers, you know, like the flat stages. You may see them at the end, sitting with their teams at the front just to stay safe. But the whole stage, they're not going to be in the breakaway and doing all of that when they're trying to save their energy maybe for the time trial the next day or the mountain stage the next day. So you've got to listen to yourself. If you're not feeling well, like some of these guys in the tours, let's say, they ate something that didn't agree with them. And they're like, well, I don't know if I want to quit the tour or whatever. Let me just see how I would feel. When that's going on with them, they're not going to be putting their nose in the wind. They're going to try to get through each stage and hope to feel better. It's the same thing for you on your ride, on your local ride. If you get up because you were up late, working late or whatever, We've got a guy here that rides with us from time to time, and he works at night. So sometimes he will work all night, then just come to the ride, and then he will sleep like in the afternoon. And I know how that is if you stay up all night. You don't feel great, you know. So but what I notice is, yeah, he will do that, and he'll come, and we know that he's come from work, and sometimes he's mentioned it a few times, and he will just sit in. He won't try to be a hero. He will sit in and get the miles in. I mean, it's not the best way to get the miles in, because when you're tired, you're tired. If I stay up all night, I don't want to go ride a bike. I want to sleep. You know how it is. You feel crappy the whole day if you stay up all night for whatever reason. There are times when I stay up all night. I'm not doing any work or anything. I just can't sleep. So I'll watch Tom and Jerry, Popeye the Sailor Man, stupid stuff like that. And then I'm just up because I can't sleep. And then by the time 5:36 roll around, I start getting sleepy. So I may sleep for maybe 2 hours, get up at 9:30 and still feel crappy. You know, it's really weird like that. So, but on this day, I didn't sleep great. I slept okay. But during the week, there was one night where I was wound up working on, bikes. I was building something. I was excited about it. I didn't want to stop. And I was on this groove. I was on a roll. Everything was just falling in place. Sometimes you're working on a bike and it always takes longer than you think. But that was not that night. I was just turning them out, getting things done, just rolling. I just kept going. I ended up staying up till like 1 o'clock or some ridiculous time like that. Took a shower, felt refreshed. And then by 4 o'clock, started feeling dead. And you know what that does with the next morning? I still have to set the alarm because I got to get up, to go back to work the next day. So my whole week was helter-skelter coming up to this ride. So, my legs felt blocked up because I took Thursday off because that was the Wednesday night I was talking about. And so I did not ride Thursday completely. And whenever I take off days like that, it takes a few rides, like a ride to get my form going. So everything felt blocked up. But what the point I'm trying to make is you must always take account and pay attention to yourself. This is why you don't judge your performance by, this person got dropped. That means nothing. You judge your performance by your numbers. Are you hitting your numbers? Are you hitting your power numbers? Are your power numbers and your heart rate numbers? If you use both, at this power, is your heart rate still in the zone is usually in? Then that lets you know that you had enough rest or whatever you're recovering. Because if you're not recovering, you're not going to improve. You're gonna overtrain, and that's not going to help you. That's unproductive training. That's going to set you back. So doesn't mean you stop riding, but those are the rides where you back off the intensity and just enjoy being on the bike and work on your pedaling efficiency. It's almost like relaxed cycling, so to speak. I'm borrowing from a guy on YouTube that has relaxed running. It's a podcast. You don't have to stop riding, but you don't need to be pushing the envelope, so to speak. So on this ride, I didn't chase anybody. I just kind of sat in and stayed with the group. Except for on my road coming up, Johnson Road. I call it my road because it challenges me. I really like it. When it rains, it gets covered. I'll show you the section that gets covered. It's all chopped up. It gets covered with water because it's very low. So we're outside of Dacus, Texas. If you blink, you miss it. And I would have had no reason to ever come here if it weren't for cycling. I have no business in Dacus. But you can see on this entire film, I don't even know if we have maybe one car pass. This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about in our direction. I got guys going the opposite way. I think we maybe have one car pass, maybe. But that's how infrequent it is on a Saturday. And even during the week. There's not a whole lot on these roads. Doesn't mean you don't get the odd jerk now and then, but we stay out of their way. And they're rare too, which thankfully so. The norm out here is everybody gives you plenty of room to mind their business. Some of them tap a friendly horn, wave. This is Dacus. That's a store. It's called Jorge's. We stop there sometimes. Not my favorite store. The bathroom's kind of tough to get to. It's a roundabout way. We don't use it. We go outside in the woods. This is the section that gets underwater. This is Johnson Road, that's what it's called. Beautiful road, great for cycling. Look at the trees coming together. It's like we're going in a 4-lane. Look at that. It's like we're going under the coverage of the trees here. This area is underwater when we have any reasonable amount of rain. And you can see all the cracks and crevices, the patina, so to speak. They have not bothered fixing this section, but a little ways up, maybe about a kilometer, they've newly paved the surface, so it gets nice and smooth. So around here, we just kind of dodge the ruts and so forth, but it's because of the water that covers the road. And periodically, they'll close it. Many times we've come here and had to turn back. It's beautiful. Look at this. It's beautiful. I mean, what else are you going to do on a Saturday morning? Watch cartoons? Nah, you got to be on the bike. You can do that later. That looks like the pirate that pulled off. El Pirata! That's Laura. Laura's a killer on the bike. Laura has gotten super strong since she's been out here killing us. The pirate. Laura flattens these hills. Yeah, it's a tree. That tree fell across the road. You know, this road is not heavily traveled, so it'll be there for a while. You know, they don't rush out here. Maybe the sheriff might come out. You can see this part. This is new pavement. This part does not usually get underwater, so it's held up. And look how smooth this is. So in a little bit, I'm going to ride up to Abby's wheel because you see in the distance, look how the road snakes. That's one thing I like about it. Is that beautiful or what? It's just a wavy road. Look at that. Not quite alpine-ish, but, you know, scenic enough. Well, on a road like this with Abby and the cows were looking at us, and I said, those cows are looking at us, and Abby said, he doesn't know you're vegan, that's why. We couldn't stop laughing. He's always taking pot shots at us. But this is Logan up here. He had left the store before we took off because he said it takes him a while to warm up, and he rode on ahead. So right here, Paulie Longar pulls off, and Dan Jaworski takes over. I'm gonna ride up to Abby's wheel, and from this point on, the road starts to go up. She says 2 point something, whatever. It's gonna continue from here until we hit 1097. There's unusual naming going on these roads. There is a road on the left right here coming up. It's also called Bethel. It goes by to what we call the Gorilla Loop. It gets you up further up in 1097. But 1097 that it gets to is also called Bethel. So you got a road that goes north and south with the same name, miles apart. Go figure that out. So this is a good steady pace. It's hard. We're going up 300 some watts. We're riding. I basically am going to keep, I'm pushing here. I'm keeping it around maybe 80, 75 to 85, something like that. I just find a gear and I'm going to just hold the radar. I like this road. It's very challenging. Right here is 2.9. You can see it's going up. It's going to go up, then it'll settle down. And the pressure is on. We're just riding. Almost 18 miles an hour, like that. And you see in the distance there's a little lump. It flips, then it goes, and you will see it. So right here it's going to go up to like 4% or so. It really bites right here. You feel it. I leave it in the same gear, and I'm just spinning it faster. That's how you get power. You don't get power by torquing a big gear. That's torque. You got to spin it. See, 400 and some watts briefly, just to get through that 4% stretch. Then it's backing down again. And I'm just sitting in the same gear. This is where you build strength. Now I'm doing all of this and I realize my heart rate is 173. It should be like 160, 159. So I know, I'm like, yeah, something's off. My engine is not functioning like it usually does. We're descending. And usually it would go down 20 beats. It probably goes down maybe 10. I'm not watching it when I'm riding, but I could feel like, you're riding and you're like, man, this doesn't feel too good. It felt harder than a shootout. We weren't going that hard. So this is when I make up my mind that I'm going to stay close to sweet spot for the rest of the ride. So I decide I'm going to hang here until we get to 1097. Right here there's a split already. That's El Pirata on the left. This is another bump, 4-point-something%. I'm in the same gear. You see my cadence is low. I'm just muscling a gear, using my strength. Because the grade is not that hard. It's 2%. We've already done 4-5%. So it's kind of moderate. So I'm not, So right here I shift up. So Mike Bradbury is on my wheel. Logan is behind Mike Bradbury. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 7 of us here. The total in the group is 9. We have 2 people that are detached. I think Doug is staying with Steve back there. And you guys are going to see why when somebody doesn't know how to ride in a pace line, you will see that we stay to help Steve and he ends up being his own worst enemy. So right here, Abby accelerates, and Paul calls it foo-foo acceleration. So we just increase the pace. I'm in the same gear. I'm just spinning it. The road's going to turn. It's going to turn. There's a curve there, and then it kicks up. It's a short little rise, but you'll feel the difference. You'll see my cadence go up a bit, almost 500 watts, 400-something watts, 5-something, 560-something. And I'm just riding. I don't even stand. I just sit. And I spin it. So normally my heart rate would be like 150, 152 is 169, 170. So I know, my body's not, it's not recovered from my my sleepless week, so to speak. So I'm like, okay, when we get to 1097, I try to suggest that we regroup because there are a couple of guys off the pace. They're not too far behind at this point. But nobody pays attention to it, so I just tell Laura, okay, you guys keep going. I'm going to drift back and wait for Doug. So I can see them in my mirror when we turn. That guy was slowing down to the left, Alejandro, so I moved to the right because I did not want to scrub off any speed. This is free speed. You've done the work, enjoy the speed on the downhill. So at 1097, this is 1097, it's also called Bethel in both directions. We're going to go north, which will take us through the forest, the Sam Houston National Forest. So we got a bit of a gap to 2 riders in the back. Then there's a lull in the pace here. Ordinarily, I would go to the front and just keep things going, but the way my body's feeling, I'm like, So my heart rate should be like 15, 20 beats lower than up there. I'm like, I'm just gonna chill. I needed to take it easy. You must always listen to yourself. Don't, like, you know, you have a car that's fast and you're driving and all of a sudden you hear a funky noise. Don't keep pushing it. It's time to get it checked out. So the same thing when you're riding. Yeah, you know what you can do, but if that day you're not feeling great, just sit in or let the group go. Laura's pointing because she wants that space. I already expected her to come in there. She's just being safe. But I will let her know in a little bit I'm going to wait. Because I asked if they wanted to wait and nobody responded. I don't know what Abby's doing up there. If you're going to pull. I asked him if they want to regroup. Nobody answered. Yeah, if you're going to pull. What's all that dancing around? I don't know what he's doing. So I'm going to tell Laura I'm going to just back off and wait for those guys.
You guys keep going.
So I'm going to wait so these guys can ride up. I'll wake them up. I'm going to wait for, there are 2 riders off the back. And I decided to wait not because of them. I needed to keep my effort down because of how I was feeling. Instead of just forcing myself to stay at that pace, my body wasn't firing like it's supposed to. So.
All right, Elder. 3 meters right here. Gotcha.
So you heard the guy in front of him is Steve. He said, "Whoo!" as we came by. He's pushing. Now, his thing is that he's been off the bike for a while. He rode with us in the past. He was in good condition, but a dog came out earlier in the year, probably February, I'm estimating, and took him down, well, along with another guy, cracked the other guy's frame named Darren on Mount Pleasant Road. Of course, the owner bailed out responsibility for the dog. You know, I don't own the dog. Her brother had said it was her dog, whatever. What we call animal control. Yada, 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 there's no more dog on that road. You know, and you can do that. So anyhow, he's been off because of that, and in combination with, he told us that he had Achilles issues from the time he was a teenager. So he finally decided to get that taken care of, probably at the same time. So he's been off, let's say, 6 months. So this ride is too fast, too far for him, period. And, you know, he ended up posting on the board that when he got home, he was laying around in the basement and started having cramps to the point where he was screaming, and his wife heard him because it was painful. That's when you do too much too soon, you know. So I did not join in the conversation on the board because it was like people were saying, oh, you need to take Tums or you need to do pickle juice or whatever. No one ever said you need to back off. You know, you're gonna be walking around with a grocery store full of, you know, prescription stuff. Well, but no, you don't need prescription for Tums, but you're gonna have Tums in your pocket, pickle juice, and all this crap, as opposed to just taking it easy. Because I don't care how much of that crap you take. If you push too much, you're not gonna be able to ride the next day anyway. So you're gonna set yourself back because it's unproductive training. You're doing more than your body's ready for. You have not built your base, you know. So nobody said that. I just kind of smiled. I wondered about it. I just stayed out of it. But, you know, it's our public group chat that we shared. And even Dan up there said he had a bit of a cramp, but he stopped. And he was the one that started the conversation. But it was amazing to me that no one said, hey, you're doing too much. Everybody wants to give him what drugs to take. Give me a suggestion on carrying Tums with him and all the antacids and all this other crap. Anyway, right here, these guys are, I don't know if they backed off because they were tired or whatever, but we're riding at our pace and we're catching up to them. But we did not change our pace. I get on Doug's wheel because Steve's done pulling, and you can see we end up riding up to them and getting on the back of the group. Then somebody surged again. I did not change my pace. I continued because my plan was to just ride steady and finish my ride. And I've probably mentioned it before. You have to decide what you want to do on every ride, because you need to make sure all your training creates improvement in your fitness, not decrease your fitness. You can decrease your fitness with the wrong training. This is where we get behind them, then somebody surges and Doug ends up sitting in the wheels. I just hold my pace. You'll see that in a little bit. So right there, somebody surged. So he's grunting, so I told him to back off, and he's killing himself. I mean, it's clear. I'm watching his body language. He's riding way over his head for what I just explained that he's been through. He needs at least 3 to 4 months of steady, easy ride. So I go ahead and pull up here and I tell him to get on my wheel, but he doesn't get on my wheel. He sits next to me. I said, keep it steady. But he doesn't get on my wheel. So either he doesn't know to do so or whatever. I don't know him that well. But I just continue riding. We go, they surge and then they sat up. They're not really going anywhere. The camera makes them look further than they are. We see them because they surge and then they sat up. And I'm like, so I'm just continuing doing what we're doing. This road is going up. So after a while, Doug, that guy's been trying to pass us for a while. That truck, he was behind us for a while. Doug's gonna back off their pace and we'll catch up to Doug in a little bit. That's him coasting. And I'm wondering, why doesn't he just slot in on my wheel? He's sitting on my left, catching all the wind. That is not gonna help you recover when you're already struggling. Then you see he comes to the front. I'm like, what are you doing? Because if you're gonna pull, I'll sit on your wheel. I have no problem with that. You know, I'm doing 7 hours. You know, this is probably let's see, it's 9:52, 10 o'clock. It's probably about 3 to 4 hours in. So then he proceeds to come to the front, even though I said keep it steady and sit on my wheel because he was struggling back there. So I just sit in. Okay, let's see how long he's gonna do this for. And I can see Doug. Doug has already sat up a bit. You know, whatever the reason why Doug decided to back up the pace, because he can ride with those guys. But for some reason today, he chose not to. And that makes sense. Whatever's going on with him, he chose to back off the pace. And so I see that, and I was hoping we were going to do something steady, but then Steve continued to change the pace. Like right now, he's going a little faster, then he'll slow down. That kills you. When you're trying to get back, you got to keep it steady. So I just sit and I watch. He's not really making up any progress. You can see I'm coming back up to him. I'm just keeping my effort the same. I want to keep my heart rate from going up too high because it's running like 10, 15 beats above normal, which tells me something's going on. That's why even the guys in the UCI, that's why they ride with both power meters and heart rate. Because you got to look at, okay, when I'm putting out this power, what's my heart rate? What is it usually? What range is it in? And when that's out of whack, that will let you know how to adjust your training. So Doug kind of waited for us here, and I'm still on Steve's wheel, but I can tell that he's pushing too much. This is a long ride, and this terrain is not very forgiving. We're mostly 2 to 5%, let's say, for hours on the end. It adds up. You know, we're doing 600-700 meters of climbing on this route anyway. If you look at the route at the top, you can see we're at the highest point of the ride. So he downshifts here, he's spinning a little more. I'm waiting for him to get off the front. I'm letting him do what he wants to do, and when he's done. Now right there he stopped, which tells me he's tired. And Doug sees the same thing. I think Doug told him, let's keep it steady or something like that. So he said something to him. I remember him telling me later when this guy falls off the pace that I had told him to keep it steady. I told him car up because he's over on that side of the road. He's tired. I can tell. So you see the gap to Doug's wheel. So I don't know if I ride up there or whether he does or not. I'm watching to see what he wants to do. So, okay. I'm going to close the gap and just sit on Doug's wheel. He gets behind us for a bit, and he surprises me in a little bit because after me seeing him look tired and everything, he doesn't sit at the back very long. He comes and he attacks us as if to say he's going to bridge up to the group because we can still see them. The camera doesn't show them very well, but we can see them. So he attacks us, but then he gets in no man's land and hits the wall. And we end up dropping him without trying because Doug does not change the pace. It's just steady. He slows down. You'll see that happen in a little bit. So it's just a matter of him getting a little more experience with pace line riding and, you know, just road cycling. A lot of cyclists are not familiar with what you should do, you know. So Doug said, yeah, he'll learn. And I think I said the same thing. I said, he'll learn in time. Trial by fire. So Doug ends up waiting for him after he gets dropped at the corner, because when we get to the corner at the end of this road, maybe 3 miles from now, we see the group standing there, and I'm like, why are they waiting? I didn't expect them to wait, because if you're not going to change the pace, this is what we want to do. Keep going. So at that point, he's off our wheels, and Doug waits for him. I'm not aware. I sit on the back of the group. Once I find out a few miles later, then I tell the group to keep going, and I wait for Doug, and then we continue riding together. And that's when we come across Jerry. You'll see that. So he comes to the side again, and I'm thinking, why is he doing that? That takes energy. And when you're tired, kind of like when your car is low on gas, that's not the time to race to the stop sign. So I just sit back and I watch. I'm like, okay, I'm sipping my energy here. I'm feeling better and better. My heart rate has come down below 150. So this is where he attacks us. The group, we can see them, and it's like he goes, he doesn't even get halfway, and he just hits the wall. It's like he empties the tank. So I'm like, I don't know what he's doing. And I chalk it up to inexperience. So a lot of riders ride bikes, they don't understand the dynamics. You do that in a race, you ain't gonna be winning the race. You gotta ride smart. You can't expend your energy at the wrong time. That's what I mean. So he emptied the tank right there, and he's done. You can see, just watch him pedaling. We don't change our speed. He slows down. I'm sitting on Doug's wheel. When we pass him, the camera's mounted, so I couldn't turn it around. When we pass him, he can't even get on our wheel. He has nothing left. So he needs to recover, because he's pushing a big gear and the legs are tired. So right there, we leave him behind. Doug is not aware. Doug is just riding. He doesn't look behind. He's just riding. Until we get further up, then he's going to look behind and realize that he's not there. So Doug will wait for him after we pick up the group at 149. So for what he has been through, this ride was too long, too hard. He needs to do base training all over again for 6 weeks plus, preferably 12 weeks minimum. Because when you just start jumping back into stuff like this, your fast is not going to last, and then you're tired and you can injure yourself. You can pull muscles, you can do other stuff. So it's just the two of us here riding. I'm just sitting. And usually at this pace, my heart rate should be like 140 something. So I realized, this is not the day. I don't know what's going on, but it's a combination of things. It's hard to put a finger on how your body performs. If you look in the distance, you can see that road kick up to the left. It's just quiet. I love this road. We're in the forest here. This is quiet. Look at that. See that in the distance? It turns left and it kicks out. This is around 2.5% or so. You feel it when you turn. So you got to find areas where you live that are quiet. They're everywhere. They don't have to be too far out of town. There are always little quiet coves. Like we used to find these little quiet roads to do our sprint workouts on. Because you can't enjoy your ride in heavy traffic. I think this is where Doug turned around. He saw that he wasn't here. Right there.
He blew.
I say he blew. I say he went too hard back
Well,
there.
he keep pushing harder than he should. Instead of working with us.
So he just doesn't know. He'll learn. You can only teach people when they're ready. Or they learn trial by fire.
He'll learn.
It's the same thing when you're in a group and somebody is real squirrely or whatever. Either you get away from them or back off or ride away from them, you know. And that squirrely stuff they're doing will cause them energy to where they won't even last. They end up getting dropped, and hopefully at some point they will either seek help and advice or something, or continue to do the same thing. You can't teach anybody until they're ready to receive the information. Especially if they think they're doing it right, and it ends up being a head-butting exercise. But I just noticed that my heart rate was just rising too fast for the effort. And it's the same thing. If you're doing 250 watts and your heart rate is usually 150 beats, and then one day, same situation, same wattage is 170 or 165, you know something's wrong. That's not the day to go after a personal best or whatever. That's the day to chill, because you might be coming down with something. Who knows? That's why heart rate is really good, because it lets you know what's going on with your body. Watts don't let you know what's going on with your body. They just tell you what you're putting out. So, you know, and besides heart rate, how you feel is really important. Who cares about watts if you feel terrible? So don't ignore how you feel. So if you're going after a Strava segment or whatever it is your thing is, and you're not feeling it, don't do it that day. You know, spin, enjoy the ride. Wait till you feel up to it. And you'll probably set a good time or even get a KOM. So this is where we see the group.
So I just sat on it.
This is what Doug said. I told him to keep it steady.
Changing the pace.
Kept changing the pace. I don't know what he was trying to catch the group. He's not going to catch the group. If you couldn't stay with them when you were with them, how you going to catch them? You can't get dropped from the group without your choice. You can't get dropped from the group and then ride back up and make up 20, 30 seconds. If you could, you wouldn't have been dropped unless you had some issue. So the guys are on the corner. I'm like, why are they waiting? Oh.
You can see them the whole way.
I told Doug, I said, I think they're tired. You know, I end up unclipping here because I was going to turn and Logan turned. So we didn't have enough room because that car was coming. So I clip back in and I'm going to ride up to them because that's a hill right there. When we turn, it's like almost 2% or something. So now I'm going to ride up to them. And my focus is on them. And then after a little bit, then I realized Doug has waited for Steve back there. And I really wanted to ride with Doug, not these guys, because the pace he was holding was a little more tolerable, it was steadier. Based on how I was feeling, that's what I wanted to do. So I'm going to let them know, hey, you guys keep going, I'm going to wait for them. But they end up going straight. Doug ends up going straight on 149. He does not want to do Mount Pleasant. It adds more miles and whatever. And that's when we come across Jerry. I think that's all on camera as well. So I'm going to ride up to the back of the group. Yes, I can ride with these guys, but the way I'm feeling, what's the point? I was like, no, because I have a full afternoon. On this day, I had stuff to do after the ride. Wear myself out. So when you ride enough, you can get more in tune with how you feel. There's no point in me pushing my body when it's not 100%. I'm not going to improve. It will set me back. That's the logic you need to use. When you're tired, that's not the time to go after your Strava setting. Wait till you're fresh. When your body is fully rested, that's when you really go. So then you can go really hard instead of medium hard. When you're tired, you're not going to keep doing your hardest efforts. So I thought Doug was still coming. By the time I rode up to these guys, I'm thinking he's coming along. But then a little bit, I'm going to look and realize, no, he waited for that guy. So he slowed down. He waited on the corner for a bit, and then he slowed down to let that guy get on his wheel. And if we get enough people that are having those kind of challenges, that's the kind of stuff, depending on what's going on, yeah, we got to have 1 or 2 people that will slow down to encourage these people to come back. You don't want to just leave people out here in the wilderness, so to speak, because you're fit. That does not grow your group. So since Doug was babysitting him, I felt like, okay, and I'm not feeling great, let me just go ahead and wait so the 3 of us can ride in together. So they're not riding that hard, and that's the thing that let me know something was off, because my heart rate should not have been as high as it was. The effort wasn't that hard. I've gone much harder. That's why I was okay. We asked something about the route, and I didn't hear all of it, but I don't like to talk about the route when we're riding. These guys act like they're too busy to click on the map that I take the time to build. If you didn't click on the map, you can just follow people. If you obviously didn't have time to do it, your time is not more valuable than anybody else's. You want to know the route? I take the time, I build it, I put it out there.
You guys keep going.
That's why I tell them when we wait for Doug and keep going. Yeah, guys like to come on the ride, ask me where we turn and where we're going. Click on the route. That's why I build it. I'm not trying to chat about it on the ride. Build the route, I put it there. You don't look at it, just follow. And you see people turn, follow them. That Garmin software is not the easiest thing to do. I take the time to build routes and save them and share it and all of that. And you can't click on it and take the time it takes to look at it or download it to your machine. Even if you don't want to download it to your machine, at least look at the turn. Look at where we're going. We all know this area. It's just a matter of which turn are we making this Saturday. So if you're not going to do that, don't ask me. Just follow. So if you can find your way back, everybody knows the route. So I'm going to start riding further to the edge of the road because Doug is getting closer. I can see them. So they can use the shoulder as they come by. He said, here we go again. So he's keeping the same steady pace. So I don't think Doug was feeling great either, and this is what he wanted to do. And so it was good that he waited for Steve. I just slipped on the back. Now, in a little bit, we're going to come across the Shama group. They have pulled off to the right side of the road, and they're stopped just on a side street. I guess they're stopped for a reason. I don't know if it's a mechanical or whatever. But as we go by, they're like, oh, they're only 30 seconds ahead. I'm thinking we're not chasing them. And so then we come across Jerry, who's on this highway, just kind of pedaling slowly, not like himself. And when I look at his face, it looked kind of pale. And so there was stuff going on with him. So he ends up riding with Doug and Steve, and they go straight on this road. And I turn at the end of the film to go through Mount Pleasant Road, which is it's a little hillier, just prettier. I wanted to do that. And that's where we kind of part ways. So if you watch Steve's hip here, you see how his back is rocking? That saddle's just a little high. And the funny thing, I had heard him tell someone early in this ride that he had gotten some saddle sores, because he's just getting back on the bike, and that will give you saddle sores because there's chafing when your body is rocking like that. The seat's a little high, and you can't really drive through the pedals when your seat's high, so you end up pushing more than anything. You're not as fluid. So the fit is important. Get your fit right. You will have more comfort. No numb hands and all of that, because if your weight is not distributed properly, your hands get numb. So get some professional help if you can't do it yourself. So a lot of riders try to do it themselves, and they go years and decades with an almost perfect position, let's say, a decent position, but it's still got numb hands and numb feet and different things. There was one ride I was on with Paul a week or so ago, and my feet were hurting. I got home, the cleat had moved. I mean, a little movement caused my feet to be painfully achy. You know how when you lose circulation? Yeah, it doesn't take much. So now my heart rate's below 150 and I'm feeling better. I'm like, okay, this is where I need to stay for the rest of the ride because of the way my body's reacting on this day. And now you see 32C, so the temperature's going up and it's muggy. So it feels hotter than 90 degrees Fahrenheit. It's like, it feels like 95, 96 Fahrenheit. So that heat definitely played a factor, but I think it's because I was tired coming into the ride too. The whole week was just a little chaotic. All of that matters. The stresses of whatever else you're doing, not just working out. You cannot ignore that. All of that plays a factor. So the bottom line is pay attention on how you feel. Whether you're on the road or in a gym, you get on the treadmill, start getting dizzy, stop. Don't pass out. Your body's telling you, let's not do this right now at this effort. Maybe take it easy or don't do the workout, whatever it is. Yeah, some guy in the car, he gunned his truck just to pass us. I'm like, there's only 3 of us here. There are no other cars. He's on the highway gunning his engine just to pass a bicycle doing 17 miles an hour. Whatever it is we're doing. I'm like, come on, really? Gas is still too cheap. When I'm driving my car, I don't need to increase my speed to pass a cyclist. They're only doing 20 miles an hour, let's say. I'm doing 35, 40. I just drive, give them room, and just keep going what you're doing. I don't need, you don't need to waste your energy. Waste more gasoline and strain your car just to pass a bicycle. Come on. Especially on a road like this, we're on the shoulder. The lane is clear. Why do you have to change anything you're doing? Like this guy, he didn't have to do anything. He just went on by. Or the next guy. So, you can't teach stupid. That's what it comes down to. These motorcyclists come out here for the same reason we do. Those guys you just saw go by. They have a club. They come out there because it's quiet. The roads are twisty. They have fun. They don't have to stop. There aren't too many red lights. That's why they're out here. They're always out there. In fact, my mail carrier that delivers mail at our house is a motorcyclist. So whenever she comes to the house, we talk about, when the last time you went out there. We talk about the same roads, which is kind of cool. They're out here having fun, so we get a lot of friendly horns or waves, when they go by. These are not the guys who are in town driving on the white line between cars. These are serious motorcyclists. They're not the maniacs you see in traffic. I see them doing that stuff all the time. It's crazy. I was downtown Houston Saturday after this ride. And there was a motorcyclist. I was on the Southwest Freeway, one of our major roadways. And this motorcyclist, we got 4 or 5 lanes of heavy traffic moving maybe 30, 40 miles an hour. And he's riding on the white line between the cars. What if somebody changes the lane? I looked at this guy, I said, man, please, you're on board. That's a group on the right there. That's the Shama group. So they're telling us 30 seconds. I'm like, we're not chasing them. And then in a little bit, we'll come across Jerry. So he must have been with them, and he just didn't stop with them when they stopped. Maybe they stopped to repair a flat. And you notice there's a lot of trees over there. They're in the shade because it's hot. That's Jerry there. That's Jerry up there in the distance. And he's just kind of riding on. He probably didn't stop with him, but he didn't look like himself. So something was going on with him as well. And he told Dan, he said, yeah, his heart rate was elevated. So he took it easy. You know, he ends up riding with Doug and Steve.
My bad.
I'm letting them know car back because we're going to pass Jerry. And I think we may have to use the main lane. So I'm letting them know car back. But we're going faster than Jerry. That told me something was wrong. Jerry never rides this slow. Because he's a hammerhead. Right here.
Hey,
See, he tapped in. Yeah, he's not well. And when I looked at his face, he looked pale. And so, yeah. So he slips on the back of us just to have some company. But, yeah, Jerry's usually going much faster than this. So you know, he knew to back off. He's taking it easy. He's going to go up to Taco. You got to do the same thing. How you feel overrides all your plans. Not just on the bike, just in life. You get up in the morning feeling crappy. Maybe that day you take the day off from work. You know, there's no point in going into work sick and making everybody else sick. You're not well. Take your sick day for being sick. Don't save your sick days for vacation. You know what I mean? Hint, hint. We used to do that. So anyhow, we had to let the front group go because on this day, I don't know what was going on. Maybe I lost a cylinder or something. But it was time to chill and enjoy the ride. So I'm glad I did because I got home, took a shower, and went to work and had a great afternoon after a great ride. You know, that's what you have to do. And then on Sunday, I could ride. I rode like 3.5 hours or something on Sunday. But if I had continued to push, I probably wouldn't have been able to function after the ride and go to work. So you know when to say when. You got to back off. So Jerry's behind me, and in a little while, I'm going to let them know I'm turning left. And Doug tells me, oh, we're going straight. This is shorter, and they just want to get it over with. They don't want more miles. I wanted more miles. So I did the same effort. I kept it below 150 or lower where I stayed. Just my zone 2 is what I finished my ride in. Just steady. I wanted to do, there's a nicely paved part of Mount Pleasant Road and it has lumps. I definitely wanted to do that. So I plan to visit this area during the week. We have rides during the week, but they go to the flatlands. I don't care for that too much. Every now and then I'll do it. I want to do more hills. Hills hurt, but they make you tough. They make you strong. You get in shape faster. They work the muscles differently. You know, on the flats, you got to really consciously push yourself. On the hills will push you. So it's almost like you got a riding partner when you climb. So I don't know what you did on Saturday, but this is part of what we did. So remember, get your K's in and keep all the doctors fired. So in a little bit, we're going to come to the turn off for Mount Pleasant Road. That's when I find out that these guys are going straight. So I'm going to drift to the back, let Jerry come around me. I could tell by his face that he was not himself. And he knew. That's why he's taking it easy. the whole stretch is still in the Sam Houston National Forest. This highway is called 149, and it's unforgiving. It is up and down. This entire terrain is lumpy. And even though they went straight, there are a couple of 3 to 5% climbs before you get into Montgomery that they have to get across. So no part of this road is very easy. Most of it is like 2%, 3%. So that's the turn coming up. You see the sign on the right that we just passed for Hidden Forest Road. And he said he's going straight. And Jerry said he's going straight, so I'm going to drift over to the right. I'll come over, Jerry's going to go. And I'm going to be turning.
I said we're going straight.
This road is called Hidden Forest Road. If you don't pay attention, you miss it. You can see it's practically invisible. So, hope you got a chance to get some K's in this weekend.